This is my weight dance. I don't know how much the weight dance is going to show. All right. And we're live. Hooray. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are the Columbus Cartoon Coalition. We are a coalition of cartoonists based in Columbus, Ohio, and the surrounding areas, including some areas a little outside of there, like me. I'm from Toledo. I am one of your hosts, Kelsey D. Crawford. I make comics, including The Legend of Jamie Roberts, and currently on Webtoons, Validation, which is co-created with my writing partner, CB. To the side of me is, if you can introduce yourself, Ben.
Hi. Yep, of course. My name is Ben Wright Human, cartoonist extraordinaire. I'm the community outreach manager for the Columbus Cartoon Coalition. I'm the only person here who's not on Webtoons, but that's part of the fun of having me here. I can ask the questions that non-Webtoons familiar people will ask, as in old people. Just turned 38. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to give my official title. I'm the festival and convention lead and one of the board members of the Columbus Cartoon Coalition. Along with Ben, I am joined by Junior. Junior, could you introduce yourself and all that jazz?
Thank you, Kelsey. I'm Junior. I am a member of the Columbus Cartoon Coalition. So I am the creator of Growing Up Gerudo, which is a Legend of Zelda fan comic. And I did the Divine Intervention, which is more of an original webcomic that is posted through Webtoons, and currently focusing on teaching art right now, but I am working on my next original comic right now. So
that's
lot in progress. So yeah, I've been using Webtoons for a while, so I'm excited to talk about webcomics and publishing through there. So happy to be here. Proud member of Columbus Cartoon Coalition. Just a wonderful group.
It is a great group. Speaking of a great group, we have another wonderful member of our coalition with us. Mel, could you introduce yourself for us?
Hi, I'm Mel Seeley. I'm an artist, illustrator. I post on Webtoons, but I'm kind of a new user, so I can tell you about all the mistakes I've made on Webtoon. And I'm hoping
just as valid. That is totally valid. So, real quick, just to lay the floor plan was the first word that came to mind, but we're just going to lay the foundation. So how long has everybody been posting on Webtoons? I can say for myself, I've only been like actively posting on there for maybe a few months, maybe a year. Long enough that because like I update on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule pretty consistently. And we're at, oh gosh, like 100 pages in now. So at least a few months ish. Junior, Mel, how long have you been on Webtoon between the both of y'all?
About 5 years now. So I've been kind of a regular.
Oh, so you are the lore keeper.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Mel, how long have you been on Webtoons?
I just checked, so I started posting on May of last year.
Okay, so you and I are about on the same boat, which is not as long as Junior. I also see Hunter is in the chat with us. Thank you for joining us, Hunter. And also shout out to everybody who will be watching the replay of this video. The replay will be available after the stream goes live, pretty shortly after, on YouTube. Links in the dibbly-doo and all that stuff. So,
yeah. Also, just before we get too deep into it, we should probably bring up the Crowdfundr that we're doing this as a part of.
Yes, this was unlocked because we raised $600 on our Crowdfundr campaign. We're running a campaign on Crowdfundr right now to get our comics anthology, the C3 2023 anthology, to print. We are real close to our goal, and today is the last day that you can pledge to help make it happen. The link is on the screen as well as in the QR code in the upper right-hand corner.
Yep. And also in the description if you need to.
I was about to say there should be a link in the description as well. Yes, so we have physical copies of the anthology available, including contributions made by many of the folks who are on today's stream, which is super exciting. Help support indie comic artists based in the Columbus, Ohio area by backing this here comics anthology. Link in the doobly-doo, the QR code, and on the screen. There we go. Do we have any other streaming goals after this one?
I don't think so. I think the main thing is once we hit the official goal, which is 800, we're paying the creators more. So I don't think that unlocks anything else. But yeah, page rates will be doubling basically as soon as we hit that level. Yes,
because that's one of the reasons we're having the crowdfunder in the first place is to pay our contributors who contributed to the anthology, because y'all deserve to be paid. So yeah. But we did unlock this live stream because we had hit the $600 mark on the crowdfunder. So huzzah for that.
Yay.
So is there anything about Webtoons? I'll throw it to you, Ben, actually. Ben, do you have any questions for us about Webtoon, being the one guy on this stream who is not on Webtoons yet?
I guess my main question is, why Webtoons? I think that's
okay.
I guess that's pretty broad. Let me see if I can narrow that down a little. Just for a little background, I do actually have a webcomic that I've been printing for. This is its 6th year, I think. Okay. 2017, yeah. And the funny thing is, it's even a vertical comic. I based it on Yonkoma strips, which, for anyone who doesn't know, are Japanese 4-panel strips that go vertically. Mm-hmm. And I've been told I should consider Webtoons. And I've always been a little hesitant just because, I like
popular.
Well, no, I think I've also heard a lot of people nervous about working with it because a lot of the people who do well with it have crazy requirements for release schedules, I've heard.
I think that's connected to the Webtoon Canvas thing, but Junior might be able to speak more about it. So
that's more if you're an original creator, and that is more involved with like Webtoons itself. And that's an entirely different process. If you do Canvas, you're given a lot more free reign with what you are doing. I don't think they have the ad revenue thing anymore. I think they discontinued it.
I did hear about that. Yeah. There were a lot of creators who were upset about that.
Myself very much included. But if you're in the Canvas, you should have a lot more free reign to have your own posting schedule. For example, right now I'm on hiatus because, of course, I'm busy teaching middle school art right now. So I don't have a lot of time to focus on my comics. So I have to put it on break. And I don't feel, I'm not like, I don't have a CEO breathing over my shoulders like, okay, post an update right now. So as a Canvas creator, you have a lot more freedom with your own release schedule and such. It's just you don't get like paid and such as an original creator. But perks, you get your own release schedule and everything.
So that's through Webtoon Canvas.
Yes.
Gotcha. I was confusing it with another feature on Webtoons. That is my fault.
No, the other is original, and that's an entirely different can of worms. And I've heard there's a lot of difficulties with it, but yeah, especially when it comes to release schedule and expectations and such. Kind of like working for like DC or Marvel or Shonen Jump kind of expectations.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression that it airs more on like the Shonen Jump angles of expectations as far as like what they expect their artists to do creative output wise if they're Webtoons originals, correct?
Yeah. Okay. Canvas, more free reign and but of course not paid or anything. So.
Yeah. I think I might be the Webtoons Canvas, but I have to double check that. Yeah.
Well, I would assume with Webtoons original, part of the deal is probably that's the only place you're publishing it.
Yeah.
Which would be the case for you, Kelsey, right? Because your validation's already printed?
Validation's not in print yet. It did have its own website, but the original website got taken down. We're not going to get too much into it because there's some back end stuff that happened. But yeah, the original website got taken down, so I'm reformatting it for Webtoon purposes and posting it on Webtoon for a new audience. The other difference with that is that Validation is kind of old, and there are a lot of references in there that are really, really dated. Because it was made between 2013 and 2018. So, it's interesting to see why there are some people who give it like middle-ish rating stars, because I don't think they catch the author notes that this was originally published like 5 to 7 years ago.
Yeah, like
so
a lot of people.
I want to make a comment. Barely anyone reads the author's artist comments. On
that's the impression that I got.
Yeah.
Is that nobody reads those?
Here's my personal opinion, because Webtoons definitely feels like it's a quick, easy way to consume comics right now. Like, it's very involved with the younger generation, whereas like the older generations, like the older versions of webcomics, you got like a single page update and you were fed that week. Meanwhile, like the old style webcomics. Meanwhile, Webtoons, you just scroll past a bunch of panels and there you go, update for the week. And usually, from what I've experienced, not a lot of the readers will read the comments, and they'll just like put emojis or something. Not to like, but yeah, it's a younger audience. It's a younger audience.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I've noticed that. I mean, webcomic readers in general, but especially young webcomic readers, will lurk rather than comment, which is, that's okay. Not going to judge them for that. But yeah, it is definitely something I've noticed. And since Webtoon does skew towards like a younger audience, I mean, Webtoon is helpful for getting your comic in front of new eyeballs. The strategy that I've seen a lot of comic artists use is that they'll have Webtoons as like a mirror site for their official comic site. And I've seen that done with Cast Off and a few other titles. They'll have their official comic site where they do like one page a week. And then they'll have their Webtoons version where it's formatted specifically for Webtoon. And they'll do it that way, but the Webtoons version is like a month or two behind compared to the official website. Something like that.
That leads to another question I had. If you are posting the stuff in multiple places, because Mel, you have a website also, and I notice your comics look like they're on both.
Yes. No. I post a little bit on my website, but I mostly post on Webtoon.
Gotcha. My main question is, because Webtoons is kind of a very specific format. It's this like eternal scroll type of setup that you got going. Are you guys at all like formatting your pages in multiple different ways so that you're covered for other websites or covered for when you move to print or anything like that?
Depends on the comic, honestly.
I see a lot of head shaking from Junior.
I actually have.
Go ahead.
There's a very specific way of formatting Webtoons, because if you Growing Up Gerudo is originally the classic webcomic format where it's like a single page and you post it and you're done. Whereas Webtoons, if you post something like that, you're more than likely going to get a comment. It's like, this chapter is too short. This episode's too short. Why is it so short? So there are some ways that I go about it and other artists go about it, where you have your own like PNGs of like dark spaces, like dark black rectangles to fill the void right there to make it appear longer. So there's some ways to do that. And plus you could always make like a little separate panel for your social media icons and any additional like comments. You could put like fan art to make it a lot longer for the viewer. That way it tricks their brain to thinking it's a longer update, even though you're putting multiple panels within one page. But that's how I would go about it if you're formatting a classic page webcomic for Webtoons.
Yeah, because like classic page webcomics are a little more like, here's a comic page as it would appear in print form, but it's just posted online for you to read, which there are pros and cons to that. One of the pros being that it's all just right there. The con of it being that it can also result in some newbie artists thinking that they can take their web resolution image straight to print, which they can't. They cannot do that. This was something that we talked about in the previous stream, talking about something called dots per inch. For print resolution stuff, you need to have it like 300 dots per inch minimum. And on web, you can get away with 72. I usually err on like 144, but yes.
Also, like with posting on Webtoon, I think like the biggest like peeve for me is that like I get on a Webtoon, someone has posted their whole page, and the text is so tiny you can't read it, and you'll run into that too. Like if you just post like one page on there, so like making sure, especially because like this is how people are gonna read Webtoon mostly is on their phone, so it's like making the text large enough to read.
Yeah, most Webtoons readers are reading on their phone.
Yeah. Question in the chat.
Yes. Cecil asked, would you guys say that Webtoons is a good start to make original comics? If not, any alternatives? By original comics, do you mean like not fan comics? Do you mean... I would like to ask some clarification on this because you are allowed to post fan comics. Clearly. Way to at Junior Cecil. Oh god.
Wait, Growing Up Gerudo is a fan comic?
Don't let Nintendo know.
Wait a minute. It's pronounced Gerudo and not Gerudo?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Ooh, oh, wow. Okay.
But Cecil does clarify not fan comics.
Okay. So I'll be honest. I don't read a ton of Webtoons in my free time, although there was a stretch of time when I was working a day job at an office where I did read more Webtoons because there was nothing to do at said office. So I read my fair share of fan comics and original comics. Webtoons allows for both. So if you wanted to post original comics on Webtoons, you are absolutely able to do that. I would say most of the stuff that's on there is original stories. But if you're looking for some place to post that's not Webtoons, Tapas has been another alternative. I will say, speaking as somebody who read comics in the office in my spare time because it was a really boring office job and there was nothing else to do, Tapas's navigation is a little different from Webtoons, but it's almost the same thing. Almost.
I'm going to step away for a moment. Please keep going.
Okay, sure. So, other than that, I'm thinking about any other questions for Webtoons purposes, but is there anything that you would both like to bring up as far as like people who might be looking to post on Webtoons? If people wanted to post on Webtoons, what would be your first bit of advice for them?
I think my first big advice is to find social media outreach outside of Webtoons first and use Webtoons more or less as an archive, like some way to navigate through it. For example, Growing Up Gerudo was originally posted on Tumblr, which can be kind of tricky to navigate because of the links. They're incredibly broken. So I use Webtoons as an archive for people who just want to quickly read it. But I would recommend social media for the sake of like outreach and getting your name out, because it's very difficult to find very certain comics on there. And I don't know exactly how the algorithm really works on the website. So I would recommend just starting off and using that more of like an external resource.
Yeah. I will second that because Validation has a Webtoon and a separate Instagram profile. And I'm not entirely sure if one feeds into the other, but it is helpful to have that other outside presence because Webtoon is handy as an archiving platform. And Instagram and other social media and other outlets are good ways to just shout at the internet that you have a comic that exists, basically. Mel, if you wanted to give any advice to anyone looking to start on Webtoons, what would your bit of advice be?
My advice, this is like what I did when I started, was Webtoon posts all these videos about how to post to Webtoon.
Oh.
That kind of talks about part of the algorithm, which is, I don't know, it's not super secretive, but it's basically like if you post 3 stories, then people are able to subscribe at the end of the 3rd chapter.
Oh,
So I made the mistake of posting 2 at the start, so people didn't have that subscribe option. So I would start with 3 chapters.
gotcha.
Oh,
Oh,
I see
Chandu asks a question. How often should you be posting? My answer for this would be as much as your energy allows. Junior, Mel, do you have anything maybe more articulate?
I think from a business standpoint, it's ideal to have a very certain schedule. It's like I would post on Friday in the evenings because that's when I know that's the highest bit of traffic online. However, from a mental health and self-care standpoint, definitely hold off when you have the energy to post.
Yeah.
Because especially if you're Canvas, you have the luxury of doing that anyways. So also make sure you have like a longer update to keep those readers satisfied instead of just doing like small bits and pieces. But it all depends on what you have when formatting your comic and what expectations you have for it yourself.
Yes. Yes, because Validation is a different setup from Growing Up Gyarados. Because with Growing Up Gyarados, you're formatting like, it sounds like multiple pages into one update. I don't necessarily do that for Validation. I take one comic strip and I change it from horizontal format to vertical format. But to make up for the fact that it's just like a one and done, I update on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. But the other part of that is all of the art is done. I just have to rotate it. And that's it. And then add a little stamp at the bottom that's like, support the comic on Ko-fi. And it's done. And then I can schedule it and it's done. Like I take maybe like one afternoon at the start of the month and I have like a month's worth of updates all like formatted and scheduled in one sitting. And then I don't have to worry about it until the start of the next month. So
that gets into a question that I had for Mel and Junior. Do you guys work with a backlog?
That's a good question. Junior's making a face.
I'm actually not great at posting. I don't post regularly, but I would say if you're not the type of artist to post regularly, just tell them when you're on hiatus and like when you're going to be posting next. So that's what I do because I just want them to make sure, so they know they're not like checking up on it all the time. That I'm like, okay, I'll be posting in a month or something.
Right. Meal prep for comics.
Meal prep.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's where I think it's important to have a social media presence tied with your webcomic because you can't, as far as I know, I haven't really explored any of the new features on Webtoons, but you can't really make social media status updates for people unless you're making like a JPEG with everything to make an actual update for it. But that's why I think it's important to like have an Instagram or Twitter, or is it X now? Did they really just call it X? Anyways, the Bird
Nobody
app.
calls it X. We all call it Twitter still. Nobody cares.
The Bird app. But any social media, just make sure you let your followers know, as Mel said, whenever you're going on hiatus.
Yeah.
But for the backlog question, I think that I personally have it tied with my Patreon. So they're 100 pages ahead, and that seems like a very good, enticing business model for people who want more content from you. So it gives them an incentive to
So
support
the people on
you.
your Patreon have 100 or 100 strips ahead.
Yes.
That's awesome.
It's pretty enticing. It's
Yeah.
enticing to readers.
It is.
With my webcomic, I was thinking about adapting it for Webtoons, which honestly would be pretty easy because it's already vertical and all that.
Sure.
And I just recently hit 300 strips. So technically I do have a backlog. And I was debating, like, maybe I'm posting 3 to 5 a week until I'm caught up, because that's still over a year of comics.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah. One other follow-up thing with the backlog thing, because I've heard this and I don't know if it's true. Does Webtoons not have a way to schedule posts? Because I heard
you
rumors.
can schedule posts.
You can.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you can. I'm not sure where you heard that, but you can schedule a post on Webtoon.
Big improvement over what I heard then.
Yeah, no, you can. How do you think I do all of the scheduling ahead in one sitting for validation? Like, that's how I do it. I don't like go in every Monday, Wednesday, Friday on Webtoon to be like, oh, I got to put up today's page. Like, no, you can't make me do it. No, I schedule that ahead of time. I even do that with my own comic, The Legend of Jamie Roberts. I schedule stuff like way ahead in advance. I'm not logging in the day of to post stuff. Don't ask me to do it.
One other thing that I'll bring up just quickly, because I think we'll probably want to talk about it off stream, Kelsey, but I don't know if you have an automated way to turn your strips from horizontal to vertical, but I may be able to show you one. With Affinity Publisher, because that might make your life a lot easier. It's basically how I make social media posts for Cospain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Color me interested.
Cool. So both of you are using Canvas, is that right? So you're not in the Webtoons originals?
Correct.
I know I'm not.
Junior, you mentioned Patreon. Mel, are you monetizing your comic at all?
No. It's free.
Well,
actually, I print it and sell it, so I do monetize it that way.
Yeah.
And being on Webtoons, that's another thing I wasn't sure about. This is probably more an originals thing, but are there restrictions on seeking out publishers for your work or printing it out or showing it anywhere else?
I feel like that's an issue more on the originals side and not necessarily on the Canvas side.
I know on originals they won't even let you publish it on other sources outside of Webtoons.
Yeah, you're like Webtoon exclusive.
Yeah, they're very strict about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe, isn't it like a contract pretty much?
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And that contract was why I was hesitant to get on Webtoons for the longest time. Especially since there was a comics industry like publisher who went on Twitter and did like a play-by-play breakdown of the Webtoons contract and was like, this is giving me Tokyo Pop vibes and not in the best way.
Yeah.
You're right. It's true.
Yeah. If nobody knows what I'm talking about, there is a video by Red Bard on YouTube. They did 2 videos about Tokyo Pop. Watch them both. It'll take you less than an hour to do it.
Yeah.
And then you'll have the full scoop.
People think like Marvel and DC are bad, and like they got issues, but the manga publishing industry, especially like Tankobons, like the collections that do like Tokyo Pop and stuff like that, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like, they may put out good content, but they expect way too much from their artists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that honestly has been one of the things that scared me away from Webtoons in the past, is I've heard about those contracts and those things. It's interesting to hear that Webtoons Canvas seems to be different.
Yes.
I've also seen like professional artists choose Canvas over originals just for that reason.
I think there was I think it's Punderworld. I know the artist was even offered to be an original comic, but she didn't like how strict it was, and she would prefer to work on her own schedule, and that's why she kept herself on Canvas.
Good for her. Yeah. I still have yet to read Punderworld, but I am very familiar with that creator and her husband. I'm big fans of their works.
Yeah.
So looking forward to reading that. I will say, pretty easy to keep tabs on the comics that you do read on Webtoons, because it's got a really good subscribing system and a good way to like. I don't know if I would call it bookmarking, but there is a way to like keep tabs on like the last update that you read.
Yeah.
So that you can pick up where you last left off, which is really nice.
Yeah, that definitely does sound like an improvement over the old method. I will give it that.
Yes.
When I was in college, the way I kept up with webcomics was I literally had folders of bookmarks for updates very regularly, updates occasionally, rarely updates. And several times a day, I just opened tabs for all the bookmarks just to see what it updated.
Mm-hmm.
Not a recommended method.
Yeah.
A subscription sounds a lot better.
Yeah. There was an alternative called Comics Rocket that had like a bookmarking system for sites that were not based on Webtoon or Tapas, because Tapas has a lot of the same like bookmarking and subscribing features. But Webtoons does have that built in, which is a plus.
Yeah. As someone who also had to build his own website for navigating the comic, this also sounds pretty nice.
What were you saying, Junior?
Didn't the old webcomics, I'm trying to remember what it's called, but didn't they send out like a newsletter for every update? You would probably be more familiar with the.
Are you talking about RSS?
Yes.
Yeah. RSS was definitely a thing.
I was kind of late on the webcomic bandwagon in terms of publishing, but yes.
Yeah, this is okay, kids. I'm gonna sit you down and tell you about the landline and RSS feeds.
What?
Yeah, we're doing this circle. Yeah, RSS was something that started in the blog sphere, and then web comics in particular, were kind of like seen as like a visual form of blogs for a little while before they went and took off and became their own thing. So RSS feeds were kind of a staple for the longest time. And then there were email newsletters. And then one thing led to another, bada bing, bada boom, and now we're at Webtoons, basically.
Yeah. It was also like, for a long time, webcomics really were the Wild West. You'd have a couple collectives, but most people were kind of doing their own thing on their own. Mm-hmm. Like there were very few things like Webtoons that actually collected everything.
Yeah, and there were a lot of webcomic creators in the old days that you found other webcomics by going to the webcomics that you really like and checking out their links page, because they'll exchange links with other webcomics creators and put them on those pages and be like, these are webcomics that I really like.
And also, because it comes up anytime we talk about old webcomics on one of these streams, there were also things like Project Wonderful that allowed you to have banner ads and things like that actually were advertising other people's comics. Like, this was before advertisement became quite as targeted. It was a great service where you could easily practically exchange you were buying and selling at such low amounts.
Yeah, it was like
pennies. That's based on other cartoonist pages, and that's how I found a lot of comics.
I mean, Comic Ad is that nowadays. Comicad.net, pretty sure it is. But Webtoon has a lot of that discoverability built in. And Webtoons does have a feature on their front page that like organizes comics by genre, which is like, wow, is that nice? You have to like select the genre yourself. Like, as far as being a creator goes, like as a creator, you have to be like, would my comic count as romance or sci-fi? And you have to make that decision yourself. But you know, there's still that discoverability aspect, and there are people who know what genres they like. Though this does lead to follow-up question, because something that I've seen a lot of discussion about when it comes to Webtoons is people bitching about it because there's a lot of romance comics on there.
I mean, it's mostly for a younger audience.
Yes.
I would say the demographic is largely tween girls.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me that's what they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually
mhm.
when the last table that I was selling at, I had some younger people come up to me and I told them that my comic was on Webtoon, and they complained about Webtoon for that exact reason. It's a
Because it's a lot of romance comics.
it's heavy romance comics,
Mhm.
and they said like we don't see like a lot of diversity on Webtoon, and
Yeah.
then they started recommending Tapas to me, so I'm thinking about posting on both.
Yeah. A lot of comic artists that I know will post on both. They'll do Webtoon and Tapas. Cast Off Comic does that. There are other comic artists that I've seen who do that. It's a valid strategy.
Mhm.
Especially since it's not helped by the fact that Webtoon on their front page has a like running banner that like it's I don't want to say it's the same faces because it is the anime aesthetic, but there are an awful lot of romance comics that appear on that like passing banner on the front page. It'll be like the king's enchantress or something like that, or like to have and to hold, or like she's his bodyguard, stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm glad that there's a market for this.
Yeah.
But give me the weird wizards who run a pancake bar. Because there's a comic like that exists on Webtoon.
I think that's what's nice about the genres and stuff is you can look up exactly what you're looking for.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is very true.
I'll
Because
admit,
there's an awful lot of sci-fi comics on there as well.
I'll admit I'm a little confused by the situation being described, just because if you can sort by genre, why does it matter if there's a lot of romance content?
Because Webtoon almost exclusively tends to focus on highlighting that the most on their front page.
Okay, so that's
Also
what they are
originals.
actively promoting. as
They're
opposed to-
actively promoting romance comics. Not like exclusively, but like 90% of the stuff that you see on the front page is going to be romance of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. But there are other comics that exist on Webtoon, and if you scroll down, you can see that they are sorted by genre. So that's there.
So one thing I am also curious about,
Mhm.
if someone came up to you and said, I would like to post a comic to Webtoons, first off, would you recommend they do? And if so, what would you warn them to do or not to do?
I mean, I actually asked what would be Junior's and Mel's tips for like people who would want to post on Webtoons, but this is a different spin on the question. This was when you stepped away. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. This is a different twist on the question. So, like, Mel, Junior, if you have any feedback about like what it was that Ben was asking, go for it.
I want to hear from Junior.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm saying I want to hear from you.
Okay, we done talking over each other?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You're fine. It's just the audio issues.
Okay.
Yeah. Junior, you can go first. What were you going to say?
I think it's just knowing what you want for your final product before you go guns a-blazing into Webtoons helps. I think it's all a matter of like, do you want this printed or do you want it strictly online or how?
Yeah.
Just knowing what you want for your final product will help you in the long run.
Yeah. And I'm going to actually borrow a page from the Starfish Face, who created Cast Off Comic, because this is very, very true. If you're going to post on Webtoon, don't post on Webtoon for the goal of becoming the most popular comic on the platform. Please don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Be nice to yourself. Make the comic because you love the comic. Make the comic because it's something that you're really excited about and that you want to share, like a 5-year-old with a crayon drawing. Like, don't try to make the webtoon equivalent of Gucci. Make your own punk stuff, okay?
The
That would be-
webtoon equivalent of Gucci is an amazing statement. I just want to kind of expand that idea beyond webtoons. When I was in grad school, one of the instructors, James Sturm, actually the guy who ran the program, was told us that your lives are going to be a lot happier if you let go of the idea of trying to make the great American comic.
Yes.
And he's right. It's great not to have that kind of pressure on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like, I also feel Webtoons does seem to be one of the better ways for people to find your work. And also, most things online don't seem like necessarily a great way to get profit from discoverability. Does it feel that way with Webtoons also? Because I know you mentioned that so Canvas, you don't get paid at all. Is that right?
I'm not posting on Webtoon for the money. So, yeah. I'm more posting on there to be like, hey, my comic exists. Yeah. Did you know I also make other comics?
Does it seem to do a good job of funneling people to look at more of your stuff?
I don't use Google Analytics, so I can't say.
That's fair.
Yeah. I feel like I would encourage people to get on Webtoons and post just for the experience, but like expect nothing from it and then be surprised. But you know, it's, I don't know. Yeah. It's not
set your expectation bar closer to the floor. Yeah.
I think when it comes to like getting an audience, and I think it's all a matter of like, it's kind of like the odds are like winning the lottery. And it's all about timing too, because I think the reason Growing Up Gerudo, of course, came off because it was a fan work, and you know, like Tears of the Kingdom came out. It was around the time of Breath of the Wild. And also we had a Tumblr audience, and there was like the whole fiasco of 2018 with Tumblr that made this giant like pilgrimage to other websites. So that's kind of when we took off. So I think it's all a matter of timing if you want to take off, but never like bet the barn on any like massive amounts of success. But even if you don't like find any success, just have the resilience, the determination of a cockroach who refuses to be stopped on. Like, just keep going. Like, go. If people are not reading it, keep going out of spite until they're forced to read it. That is my big advice for any like creative project.
I mean, I am mostly making The Legend of Jamie Roberts because I just have a deep love for it because I love pirates and dragons and things. I'm not sure that I would ever get to a point of making the comic out of spite, but totally understand the idea of if nobody's reading it, continue anyway out of spite as like well, if you're not reading it, I'm going to keep making it because at least I'm reading it.
I'm going to force you to like my comic.
But that also ties back into the whole, like, don't make a comic to try to like jump on the popular bandwagon, because Scott McCloud put it best in Making Comics. He was like, one way to phrase it is, just because you chose to sell out does not mean that anyone's going to buy. And yeah, it's the best way to phrase it. But the more elaborate answer is, just because you chose to make a comic in a genre that's really popular, even if you're not a big fan of that genre, you're going to get your butt handed to you by people who are making comics in that genre and are passionate about it, because that passion is going to show through in the work.
And another important factor there is, if it's a genre you don't like and you're telling a story because it's popular, but it's not what you're actually into, you're putting a lot of work into something you don't like. That is because, I mean, you get pretty fast when you started doing a comic for a long time. Like, there are all kinds of shortcuts, your technique gets better and things like that. It still takes a really long time to make a page or to make a strip or to make any of this stuff. It takes a lot of energy. It takes, like, if you're making something you're not enjoying, then why are you doing it? Like, I hate to put it that way. Like, there are so many easier ways to get rich than making comics.
Yeah.
Well,
If you're going to do something you hate, do something you
have
get
like
paid
an
for.
office job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've done the office job route. It was awful. I would rather be making comics. So that's where I'm at. If anybody has any further questions about Webtoons, how to post on Webtoons, or just webcomics in general, feel free to ask in the comments section.
Yep.
Any
close to the Q&A section.
Yeah, we are getting close to the Q&A section. That's why I wanted to throw that out there for anybody in the comments. If they have any further questions for us, feel free to ask them.
Also, while we're thinking about that, I do just kind of want to check back in with the crowdfunder because we have had movement.
Oh, we have?
We have, just a little bit.
Ooh, how's the crowdfunder doing?
We are now officially...
Are we officially funded?
We're not funded. We're less than $50 from being funded, though.
Oh, heck yeah!
We are very close with 8 hours left.
Heck yeah! If you would like to help get us to the goal or even closer to it, the QR code is in the upper right-hand corner. You can check out the crowdfunder in the link in the doobly-doo. Back it, support indie comics, support the creators who are on this stream and part of the Columbus Cartoon Coalition.
That's right. I'd also like to just very quickly mention some of what's in the crowdfunder. There's the anthology itself, of course. You can get physical or digital copies. There's last year's anthology, which was also a pretty awesome project. And the thing that, interestingly, was what I was most excited for, we got stickers of this awesome cover that was designed by Danielle Dean.
Yes.
Including holographic stickers.
Holographic, you say?
Holographic. Yeah, and this is crowdfunder, so it is different from Kickstarter. It's a lot more a la carte, how you pick up what you want to get.
Yes, you can mix and match your rewards.
Yes,
so
honestly,
if you
very easy. It's nice.
It is really nice in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things about crowdfunder that are really nice compared to Kickstarter, and that's just one of the features.
Of course.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing about Webtoons?
Yeah, go for it.
So I think this is like a good tip for like long form comics, and I want to hear if Junior does this as well. But I do a lot of I kind of talked about this the last stream, but do a lot of sketching, character designs, and having like resources and references for yourself, like while you're doing the comic. It just like makes the process easier. So.
Yes, absolutely. Having like, we talked about this last stream, but like, you don't have to go as far as character turnarounds, but character turnarounds do help a lot. But if you want to see tips about speeding up the comics process and all of that stuff, you can check out our previous stream on our YouTube channel, link down below.
That's right.
If you're watching on YouTube.
We also have a playlist of all the streams that we did for this particular crowdfunder campaign.
Oh, sweet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we may still need to add the last one, but we'll have them all on there soon.
Yes. As of this recording, keep an eye out. Possibly after the stream, we'll be updating that list. Yes. So what Webtoons do y'all read? I'm curious at this point.
I'm going to be honest, I don't read a lot of them.
To be fair, I don't read a whole ton of them either, but I do have this is just the kind of person I am. I have a spreadsheet that tracks all of the webcomics that I read.
Yeah, that's all right.
Regardless of, Ben knows me.
Yeah, well, also, like, it's like the bookmark thing I used to do. You just use a spreadsheet. It makes sense.
Yeah, but the spreadsheet helps keep track of where they are across the internet, not just on Webtoon.
I mostly read, honestly, most of the stuff I read that's big on Webtoons is not, I'm reading it on other social media. I often come across it from Reddit or Instagram. Some of them I actually back their Patreon, so I'm getting it that way. The big ones are Somewhere in Between by Andre Demel.
Mhm.
I think I said that name right. I don't have it in front of me, but highly recommend that one. Slice of life about a group of young BIPOC kids, and it's very funny, and also they deal with very serious issues in very good ways. Highly recommend checking that one out. I'm trying to remember the name of this other one. It posts infrequently, but it's this really nice, sad one from the perspective of death. It's one of those ones where you come across, read through it, and you're like, I'm not crying, you're crying.
Those are the best.
It's very sweet and beautiful. A lot of it deals with important environmental and social issues. Like they'll do a comic of someone dying tragic, or some creature dying tragically, and the pain is over now, and that kind of thing. And then they'll say at the end, like, whaling is still a thing, and things like that. Like there was a comic they had on whaling and things like that. But yeah.
Wow.
So
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
You know the one I'm talking about. That one's so sad.
You got to be in a good headspace to get that. But yeah, guts me every time.
Yeah. They just had a great one that posted where Death was talking to Life, and Life is basically Death's friend, but doesn't really get what Death does. Like always, it's like not getting that the goth friend sometimes likes pretty things. But there's like, what's it like for you with Death? And it's like, my favorite thing is the woe factor. And it's like, what's the woe factor? It's like, well, for example, kiwi birds are flightless. And when they're dead, they can float. And when they're ghosts, they can float now. And the moment where they do that and they go, whoa.
Oh.
They also had a great one where it's like, oh, yeah, this, I'm sorry I'm talking about animals dying. But they had one
content warning, animal death.
Yeah, sorry about that. They actually showed a group of dog ghosts who were like, dude, check it out. Sticks come out of trees. And they're like flying around a tree going, whoa. So like, it's really cute and also like really bittersweet and sad. Like it's really well done. You know what? I'm going to find the name and just drop it as a banner when that happens.
Sure.
What else do people read?
Yeah, go for it.
I know it's hard because like as comics artists we're always really busy, so I don't read a whole lot. But I definitely like make sure to follow my friends and people that I know, and I read them every once in a while. So
could you maybe give a shout out to one or two of them?
Sure. Let me see what's in my subscribed.
Sure.
I know there's one that I've been reading by outraged artists. It's called The City Under Saturn. I guess I started getting on Webtoons because of Heartstopper, and it became like a show.
Sure, yeah.
It's not somebody that I know, but it's a popular one. There was another one called like Bellflower Magic Brigade.
That's a fun name.
Yeah. I think I have 2 like webcomics subscriptions, and there's more on my phone. But yeah, I don't know. Just I meet people. I'm like, do you have a webcomic? Then I follow, and then I read them every once in a while and check up on them, just to see how they're doing it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I was going through my webcomic reading list spreadsheet because I am that nerd. And the Webtoon ones that I'm keeping active tabs on are Growing Up Gyarados, obviously. I shouldn't shout that one out. That's a porn comic. That's not on Webtoon. There's one called I Was the Final Boss. I have not started it yet, but the pitch was interesting because I discovered that Webtoon has a post-apocalyptic genre. And I'm like, well, color me interested for that. I like good post-apocalypse stories. So I have that on my radar.
I have one more to shout out.
Yeah, go for it.
This was someone that I met in Detroit. It's called Autumn Wing and the Crown of Fire.
I heard of this one.
Yeah. Brandon Lionhearted. It's a really good one.
I found the name of mine, by the way. It's called Loving Reaper by Jenny Jinya.
Loving Reaper. Interesting.
Yeah. Highly recommended. Be ready to be sad. I also realized this is another one I don't read on Webtoons, but I'm pretty sure it's on there. Litterbox Comics is hilarious.
Oh, I know Litterbox Comics. Yes, they are very
I must
funny.
have shared Litterbox Comic stuff with you because I love their stuff so much.
Yeah, it's basically like family comics, but it's all cats.
Yeah.
It's great.
And yes, they're on Canvas.
Nice.
Cool. But yeah, I'm shouting out the right people. Good to know.
Also want to shout out, this is on Tapas, but Tapas has a lot of the similar features as Webtoons. But I'm really digging this webcomic on Tapas. It's called Poor Man's Gambit.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a guardsman who does his best in a city between wars. Almost every halfling character that makes an appearance there is some flavor of non-binary or genderqueer. And the main character also has a pet turtle and 2 cats.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I have Ropton Jr. It's just it's so wholesome. I highly recommend Poor Man's Gambit on Tapas. It's very good.
Yeah. That actually brings up another thing that's kind of fun. This is more webcomics in general, and I'm curious if it seems like Webtoons in some ways is continuing that. One of the big things about webcomics when they first started coming out is things outside of the mainstream finally had an opportunity to get their voice out.
Yes.
Like that was one of the things that was really cool in the original webcomic boom, because so much stuff that would not make it into mainstream comics would.
That's kind of the flavor of webcomic that I tend to pick up on more often than not. There is one romance comic that I'm keeping tabs on Webtoon, but it's about a woman who's seduced by a sentient haunted suit of armor. So
yeah,
it's a whole new flavor of monster love.
Yeah. Part of me also, when you mentioned the romance stuff, made me think maybe I need to check this out because that's a genre I'm trying to understand more about. Like,
okay.
Well, because fun fact for people not subscribed to my Patreon, there's a little bit of that stuff happening in my comics, starting with the strip you guys get next week. And it's been tough because it's not a genre I write in normally. So,
gotcha. Yeah.
It does get me curious. I also am kind of wondering, like, one of the things that always has me nervous around comic aggregators, especially something like Webtoons where you're signing up to be printing a comic through them. It does feel like the wide variety of things you could potentially get might be narrowed because they're focusing more on topics that seem to be more commercially viable for them as a whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that is a valid concern.
For Webtoon, possibly. Because one of the most popular comics on Webtoon right now is a popular retelling of the Hades and Persephone myth. So, there's something to be said about that. I will say, though, as far as Webtoons being a webcomic aggregator, though, the fact that it is relatively easy to just go on there and browse is one of the things that's working in its favor. I have not browsed too many titles on Tapas, so I can't attest to the quality of the browsing features on Tapas. But it's a whole lot easier to find a new title to pick up on Webtoon than it is to just go to Dr. Google.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
So to make kind of a weird comparison, it's almost like the benefits of using Kickstarter as opposed to other
kind
platforms. Just in that whenever I've used Kickstarter, I found a surprising amount of my discovery came from Kickstarter. People actually find you within the platform.
Yeah, Kickstarter does have a really good recommendation feature to it where it's like, oh, if you really liked this campaign, you might also like this one. Kind of in the same vein. Webtoon has some of that. So there is something to be said about that being built into Webtoon in the system itself.
Do you guys find that most of the Webtoons you follow, you discovered through Webtoons or through somewhere else?
Ooh. Junior, Mel, if you want to comment on that.
I think the ones that I've found are mostly on like social media. For example, you guys started talking about like tapas and stuff, and I just remembered Preeny has to repeat the 6th grade, which is the idea of like these. The premise is, you know, those like DeviantArt adoptables that people kind of try to have, and this artist made like a whole webcomic of these forgotten DeviantArt adoptable OCs called Greedy has to repeat the 6th grade on tapas. And the only way I found out about it was through some Tumblr post. So
Oh my
there's an
gosh.
example of like external media in order to find a webcomic.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, now I gotta read this.
It's wild.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I do like a lot of, well, not a lot, but I do the comic shows and comics tables, and I feel like I meet the most people that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I found a lot of webcomics.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I found a lot of my webcomics. That or talking with folks like y'all and just topics and titles coming up in conversation. Like, Junior, I'm pretty sure that you were the one who told me that Tale of Two Rulers was on Webtoon, and I'm like, sold, subscribing.
Yes.
Yep. That's another fan comic, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good friend of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is an interesting concept, and I am now subscribed to that as well as Growing Up Gyarados. So worth it. But I haven't used the Webtoon discoverability too much, but I also have done a lot of in-person shows, so I often, if I am able to, walk around and exchange business cards with folks, and I check out their Webtoons that way. Or like the old school way, a lot of comics that I've found have been by going to the official webcomic sites of the comics that I really like and going into their links page and seeing what links that they have there.
Yeah, classic. It works.
It does. Because it's like, hey, this creator really likes this comic. If I jive with this creator's work, maybe their tastes.
Yeah. Come to think of it, I had a page like that set up on mine, and I haven't updated it in a while. I really should do that.
You absolutely should do that, and you should link the webcomics by the folks who are part of this stream.
Is this the ASMR part of We're getting goofy, and it's about an hour in, so we may want to start getting to the wrap-up.
Sure, yeah. So, the wrap-up. This is where we say where people can find us online. I can start us off. You can find all of my stuff at kelseydcrawford.com. That's all of my webcomics, social media links, possibly even links to the Crowdfundr campaign that we're doing. All of that, kelseydcrawford.com. That's KELCID Crawford.com. Ben, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at my website, bwhcomics.com. How do I not have a quick banner already set up for that? You know why? Because this is technically using my StreamYard, and so it's in another folder. Here we go.
There you go.
But yeah, you can find me at bwhcomics.com. I'm also at bwhcomics on Patreon, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. You can also find my webcomic, Cospain, a weeb comic about cosplay and convention craziness, over at cospainecomic.com. And after this talk, who knows? Maybe Tapas, maybe Webtoons. We'll see.
That'd be exciting. Junior, where can people find you on the internet?
Off the internet, I'm usually under a covered bridge eating Taco Bell, but on the internet.
Perfect.
On the internet, you can find me at Growing Up Gerudo on Tumblr. And also, if you want to see the Webtoons, there's Growing Up Gerudo on Webtoons. And if you want something a bit more original and flavored, there's The Divine Intervention, which is a complete comic. Highly recommend, one of my faves. And I don't have the link for it, but if you want to find me on social media like Instagram and such, Vigo Burrito, VIGO Burrito.
The Divine Intervention wrecked me. I love it so heckin' much, my dude.
Thank you.
Yes. Mel, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at melseely.com. It has my shop. It has both my comics and Love and Body and Red All Over. You can like get a little taste of those. And then on Webtoons, it's Red All Over on Canvas.
Mhm. Awesome.
Yep.
I will definitely be needing to read that. I have it bookmarked on my webcomic reading list spreadsheet.
Also, just because I forgot to bring it up earlier, because I forgot we'd made these pre-links, here's the one for Kelsey's validation comic on Webtoon.
Yes, because I post validation on Webtoon. You can see it at tinyurl.com/validation-comic. Wait, I didn't do the slash.
Yeah. There we go.
You
I'll
got
start flossing.
Yeah, that's the real way you know you're old, when you don't care that something's out of date. You're like, I don't care, dab.
Yeah. I'm like Lizzo. I don't give two shits. All right.
I'm also not going to bring it up, but we are now at 763. So we're 95% of the goal raised with 7 hours left. So if you haven't done it yet, link is scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now.
And also in the QR code in the upper corner. Be sure to check out the Crowdfundr. We're doing this stream to bring awareness to our Crowdfundr campaign to get the C3 2023 anthology to print. To find out more or to pre-order your own copy, and you really should pre-order your own copy, it supports independent comics creators in the Columbus, Ohio area. You can find out more about that in the link in the doobly-doo or in the QR code. There you go.
So should we throw up the C3 gang sign now?
Okay, let me see if I can.
Yeah. Other hand. Yep. There. Wait.
Oh, there's a
C with your right hand, and 3 with the left hand.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
All right, we got it.
Yeah.
C3.
Oh, got my wrist.
Yes.
I need to stretch more. Art is athleticism, man.
Art is athleticism. Take care of your wrists.
Yes. Stretch.
For sure.
You know, we should do an entire stream just for wrist stretches.
Wouldn't be a bad idea. I could use a few more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So that is all for our stream today. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your comments. We weren't able to highlight all of them, but we appreciate them regardless, and all of your questions. And again, thank you so much for watching and for checking out our Crowdfundr. You are awesome.
Rock on, guys, and never stop drawing.